This is Brass Tactics, policy and strategy for the people, not the politics. Welcome back to Brass Tactics. Pete, Matt, and I aren't going to the movies this time, unless Pete's computer crashes.
I'm only running this one window, and it's still telling me I have a CPU shortage.
You might need a new computer there, Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can afford it.
Nah, I'll just talk to the nice lady downstairs. She'll issue me a new one. Joe, can you run the stock sound? Like, can you run like the stock sound of the movie projector warming up to open this episode? Just like,
I'll see if I can find something. At least I'm going to say that, and then I'm probably not going to remember to look for
ASMR popcorn noises.
Today we are either going to all agree on the same movies, being we didn't actually even publish a criteria for what we were looking at movies. I think we're all going to be talking about our favorite couple of movies that are war based, ideally from like a accurate sort of depiction, or I don't know. We'll see what we got. We'll just go around the cloud table one at a time. Pete, tell me what your number one or your number three pick is, and I'll tell you why it's wrong.
Oh, my number three pick. So I didn't go by real.
Yeah, we can't put all the number ones up front.
Right. Otherwise, I agree. My number
hold the audience captive. Number two will shock you.
It's just
commercial, right?
It's Barbie. It's horrible. No. My number three pick is a foreign movie. It's The Blue Max. My number three pick is The Blue Max, which is a German World War I movie. It was made in the 1980s, I believe, but it's about a
move to strike because it's a foreign film.
No, because it's good. One of my favorite. It's actually one of the best World War I movies, I think, because it's not about guys in the trenches. It's about fighter pilots.
What?
And
more than elite.
Yes.
Better than 1917?
Yes. In my opinion, it is better than 1917. It's similar in vein to another German war movie that's made during World War II called made about World War II called Cross of Iron. Yes, which is also a very good movie. But Blue Max is essentially about a young German fighter pilot who is consumed with this desire to win the Pour Marie, which was Imperial Germany's highest award, which was a blue Maltese cross, hence why they call it the Blue Max, and how he essentially kind of sacrifices everything to go after it, including the respect and trust of his squadron mates and everything else. It kind of chasing this ephemeral dream while like trying to be kind of like a knight in shining armor above the trenches and the mud and the gore of World War I. Highly recommended.
I will see your stodgy German World War I movie, and I will raise you Blackadder Season 4.
Oh,
Blackadder Season 4.
A movie.
And it's hilarious. Rowan Atkinson's finest work. It's very dry satire of the British experience in the bunkers. It's very entertaining.
It's very depressing at the end.
It is highly depressing, but again, it's accurate to Britain's honestly attitude and perspective of World War I. Like, well, that was futile.
It was a couple months ago, but somehow I went down the tangent where we were discussing the part where he shoots the pigeons, the messenger pigeon that was carrying secret battle plans, and his commander's favorite bird.
Yeah, that is my favorite. Sir, this is all the land we took in the last offensive. Brilliant. What scale is it? 1-to-1, sir. 1 cubic meter. It's just a patch of dirt. Savage. What about you, Matt? What you got? What's your number three?
Are you gonna move us forward or back in time?
I'm gonna go back in time. Paths of Glory. It's a Stanley Kubrick film, 1950s, but a depiction of French troops during World War I and very, very ahead of its time. I mean, if it had been made today, it would have been a huge. I mean, it's a very dark, grim film compared to most other war films from that.
Kirk Douglas is the lead in that, right?
I believe so. Yeah, Kirk Douglas is the lead. And it's just the futility of war and everything else in World War One. So it's a somewhat depressing film, and it's France in World War One, which later has a mutiny, which Germans somehow don't figure out that they had a mutiny, one of the biggest intelligence failures of all time. But it's an area of World War One that we don't think about a whole lot. There's not a lot of World War One films, honestly, until we had, what was it, 1917 recently was a big hit, but
Yeah, what was that other one? The War Horse.
War Horse was sort of
Eh,
kind of a World War One film.
eh. Yeah,
You
I think
had
they
that
lost
training with Fly Boys, but yeah, there's not a lot of films. I enjoyed parts of that movie. It's a guilty pleasure for me.
Yeah, the ending credits. Yeah. No, dude. I think Peter Jackson's They Will Not Grow Old, I think was really good. Even though it was obviously a documentary more than a movie. But I like Paths of Glory because it doesn't get like All Quiet on the Western Front. A lot of these World War I movies, they get bogged down with all like the ennui of the struggle. It's like, oh, look how horrible everything is. Paths of Glory is really cool because there's this streak of nobility. Because like Kirk Douglas is kind of like trying his very best to do the right thing, like against all odds, and he refuses to get like sucked down into it.
Well,
And
it's funny how
it
people hated it at the time. Like
Mhm.
in France, it was banned from showing until 1975.
Well, I mean,
Spain banned it
they all hated it.
Swiss banned it till 1970. In the United States, all military establishments at home and overseas banned it.
No, well, I mean, how does it portray the military high command? They're
Confident, which is what
they're
they
not
were.
just they're not just incompetent though, like they're vindictively careerist, right? Like they'll do anything to protect their rank and their position, and they'll exploit their men to do it. So they're not just incompetent like Blackadder, right? Like they're buffoons in Blackadder. They don't really know what they're doing. Marshall Haig is an idiot played by what's his name again? The fat guy, Stephen Fry. That was it. Yeah, he played with Stephen Fry. But either way, in Paths of Glory, it's way more like nasty and undercoat and also realistic, and hence why De Gaulle would see that as a direct threat, and everybody else would, and they would ban it.
Yeah, it kind of shows where the rubber meets the road, which you don't usually. The only other film that you kind of see that, in my opinion, that's so much watered down is Saving Private Ryan. Kind of the middle management and the interaction between the soldier, the mid-level leader, and then higher, and where it all comes together as a leader and their responsibilities. So, while Saving Private Ryan's very dramatized everything else, the whole thing about the soldiers complaining to Tom Hanks and saying, "Oh, well, I don't complain to you guys, I complain to my boss." That's all like put into high gear in Paths of Glory. Like
Mhm.
to me, it's an inspiration for most of the later war films that we see. Like
Especially, I say, especially Vietnam movies.
oh,
They get tons. It's actually almost weirdly a pre-Vietnam movie.
1957.
Yeah, so it's really ahead of his time. Kubrick was easily 10 years plus ahead.
Hoover could do whatever he wanted to do. I mean, if
Mhm.
he wanted to make any given type of movie, he could do it, with the exception of his last film, Eyes Wide Shut.
Mm.
But yeah, that would be my submission, Paths of Glory. What about you, Jim?
Actually, my opener was Saving Private Ryan.
Oh,
Um,
okay then.
for a few different reasons. I kind of take a different take on it. It's significant to me just because it's the first war movie I remember watching, and I think it's got some pretty high rewatch value. I feel like they do a pretty good job at what they're trying to represent, and I think part of what they do a great job representing is Tom Hanks's character. It's just he was a teacher, right? And then he gets put in this position where now he's a leader, and people do look to him, and he does all the right leadery things, and he leads by example. And so I think the way the army wants and the way we want our military's like lower level leaders characterized, I think is represented adequately. And within that, it feels very real because the sort of the details of like the bureaucratic nature of running a military are still sort of in there.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I mentioned that when I talked about Paths of Glory.
Mhm.
It's more than just the rah rah take the hill sort of thing. It's the background, the motivations of soldiers. Granted, the whole thing is fictional and everything else, and although it has a very very vague basis on fact, you make a much better film about the five Sullivan brothers all dying together.
they made a very touching movie about the Sullivans back in, I think, the 50s or late 40s. But obviously, it's not nearly as graphic as Saving Private Ryan is. Things were much more kind of toned down back then. They told, they didn't show. But Saving Private Ryan's kind of really revolutionary because it's like a in your face, like ultra violence, like very intense. And it takes like this blockbuster approach to it, building off of things like Titanic and Jaws, which is like all these massive just spectacle. And then I think that was what takes the war movie and it turns into a blockbuster. Because after Saving Private Ryan, you get Braveheart, Black Hawk Down, just like all these really ultra high budget, The Patriot, all like almost like cartoonishly gory. They take they take that and they jack it up to 11.
That's what other war movies are measured against. And I would say,
Yeah, I would agree.
like it from our childhood to our current adulthood, how a war movie is how it compares to say.
Well, only because miniseries apparently you guys took a vote when I wasn't looking and banned them because it was basically the test for Band of Brothers,
Yeah, I would agree.
which I would hands down argue is the most accurate and moving, well done production.
Yes, agree.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best. Nothing,
historical dramatization.
nothing's come close to Band of Brothers. Nothing. It's essential. I would say it's basically perfection.
I tell the cadets you need to be like Winters, and nobody likes Ross Geller.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Ross. No,
Here's a
he
fun
earned
fact.
he earned his place.
We salute the rank, not the man, Captain Sobel.
I was
Saving
always
Private Ryan was nominated for Best Film the year it came out. What film did it lose to?
What did it come out? 97?
99.
90.
I'm gonna assume it was a film I wasn't allowed to watch.
It probably wasn't Shrek.
98. I'm sorry. I'm off by a year. It's an awful film, and it's a travesty looking back in hindsight.
Well, the Academy probably didn't want to give it because of all the grotesque, like the gratuitous violence, to be honest.
Shakespeare in Love.
No way. Shakespeare in Love won Best Picture? Isn't that Ewan McGregor?
No, it's Ralph Fiennes.
Oh, Ralph Fiennes. Ugh, man. Like, good actor, but my goodness, his rom-com stage, dude.
Like the fact that in retrospect that people considered that better than Saving Private Ryan.
No.
It was fine, just as a work of art.
Because it was like rated like it was a pretty hard R. No jokes intended. It was a pretty, violent movie, and that might have been one of the reasons why. Because when was the last time a rated R movie won Best Picture? Before that,
I don't know the answer to that question.
yeah, similar reasons why like the Passion didn't win that many awards per se because it was rated, R. You don't get that many.
It was also very, very pointed in a way that is not considered mainstream.
Oh yes.
All right, this round around, Pete, do you have the war movie that bugs you the most? Yeah. Like, what's your worst? Give us
this will be
curveball here. Well, I can start with mine because I was going to talk about the book. This one. Okay. I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh,
How was did you all see that Channing Tatum one with Dog, the Bomb Squad thing? It just came out a few years ago. Okay.
and it's pretty good. I would agree. I didn't go to Iraq. Yeah, I was in Afghanistan. Yeah, I got the tail end of the surge in 2012, and we got pulled home early. Those people are at the end of their careers now. I mean, look at a lot of them. The people that are hitting, retirement now at 30 years as 06s, they were company commanders or, staff officers at that time in Iraq. 30-year services, they have been commissioned in 94. So Iraq was 03, 9 years in service right there. They would have made the commitment to long term. Yeah, I mean, I was a baby when I was in Afghanistan. Geez, I got promoted to first lieutenant in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. What's your least favorite, Matt? What you got?
Favorite? Oh, I've
got it. Always makes your gorge rise.
I really hate a lot of the Vietnam War films, like
Platoon. I do not like Platoon.
Deer Hunter, all those ones.
Yep.
If I'm gonna pick one that I like least, it's more of the modern. You have these World War II films that are almost glorifying World War II too much, in my opinion, and they have such contrived fallacies, and the characters are straight out of a comic book, and They're bad. Like
Oh, you're talking Saints and Soldiers right now, aren't you?
Wind Talkers.
Wind. Oh, that was just that.
No, not Nicolas Cage.
That is
Come
straight up
on.
silliness.
It's
No,
a
no, no. You
horrid,
can't bring a
horrid.
Cage movie into this. You can't bring Cage because his movies, I think, basically count as parody.
Yeah.
That's like saying Firebird.
That's not
Your
that's
next
not
favorite war movie. Firebird's
I mean-
amazing comedy.
But we can all agree that if we do war parodies, it's definitely Tropic Thunder wins.
I like Hot Shots. Hot Shots is fantastic war parody.
Yeah, are you familiar? Did you guys know that there was an Iraq war parody called Delta Farce?
Oh,
It had Larry the
Mexico was very
Larry the Cable Guy, Bill Engvall, and Jeff Dunham are on the our National Guard unit that's deploying, but the plane like bails out and they get dumped in the deserts of northern Mexico, and they think they're in Iraq.
I'll get another.
Danny Trejo's in it too.
That's actually an amusing. That's an amusing premise.
Talkers is too easy for me to make into a punching bag. Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
It's such a farce of a movie. It's
Oh,
You
wait,
better be talking about the
time out.
my
Time
friend.
out. Yeah, I
Big
need
words.
point of order. We need to which Red Dawn?
well, they're both terrible, but since I'll annoy
Oh,
you
okay.
more, we'll go with the original.
No, bro. The original is pure 80s Kino. It's wonderful. Don't talk about my boy Patrick Swayze like that.
Kitschy. That's all that it
It's
is.
kitschy. It's wonderful, and it's unpretentious. It's not going in there being like, oh yeah, this is like a serious situation. It's just a power fantasy for teenagers. That's all it is. Every teenager dreams of Russian VV paratroopers landing on their football field, jumping in their pickup truck and driving away as they
They
storm.
all would have died pretty damn quick.
That's why it's a power fantasy, dude. Your son
Great
is
American
member
kids
of
in the southern
elite-
states
your
pray
son
for this day.
member of elite paramilitary organization, Mayor, the Boy Scouts. It's an amazing movie, dude. It's every high school kid's dream. They
Yeah.
rescue
Yeah.
the
I
girls
grew up
dressed.
in ROTC with everybody having to do Wolverine's this and Wolf. It's
Oh,
no.
dude, just imagine. It could be worse. He could be from Colorado. I'm sure they do that all the time out there. It's a great movie. It's a seminal late Cold War fun power trip.
Russians didn't even have enough airlift assets to pull a whole brigade off the ground. And
If
they're
you're-
going
no, they're-
to run over the Century United States.
How else are you going to get the power fantasy? Like I said, if you want to hit it for silliness, you got to hit the remake, which, as you said, switched
I mean,
the
that doesn't
planned.
exist. The remake.
Here's the thing, it switched the planned Chinese adversaries for North Koreans, a country with only like what 20 million people in it,
Yes.
invading the United
The way to invade South Korea, but somehow it's going to go across the Pacific and invade.
Absolutely, bro. Don't worry about it, man. It's the mouse that roared. That funny.
We should have a category there for favorite work of fiction that should have been made into a film that hasn't. After you do your next one, Joe,
Oh,
got some ideas there I brought in. But go ahead and give us your least favorite or most painful.
Yeah, Joe.
angle.
All right, so I've got a least favorite, mostly because it did horrendous things to what is going to feature very prominently on my list of favorite books. But if that one gets vetoed because y'all have some arbitrary metrics
Well,
that
you're going to give us
we're not
another.
Starship
Oh,
Troopers.
Starship
Starship Troopers is perfect. You can't say it. That's my number one favorite.
That was terrible what they did, because to clarify, movie's so bad it's good. Love Neil Patrick Harris and all of the shenanigans. The reason it rates as my worst one, though, is because all of the good stuff, all of the good points and like political, socio-political sort of insights and commentary
That Heinlein
writes into the book is just absolutely sanitized out to just be about the bugs, the shooting, the joint showers, and all the other weirdness. I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part.
task failed successfully.
I got it.
I think it was a gigantic missed opportunity.
It would be honestly a remake of Starship Troopers perfect to the book, but honestly with
No, but hold on,
little bit of that kind of over the topness, that would be perfect.
Okay. I agree. But before that, because it's probably going to drop out of my brain again, to Matt's suggestion, Old Man's War.
As the book. Yes, very
Old Man's War should have been turned into a movie at some point.
it would be very hard because it's so there's not that much action in it, right?
It's easy. You don't even need CGI because they basically turn in their old gross people bodies and get new ones, and you just gotta powder dip them green and call it a day. It could never be easier. Like you could
You
literally
can do it.
start producing that.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, because Old Man's War, it has a lot of the same value and presents a lot of alternatives and a different take than Heinlein, but still also just humanity in intergalactic space kind of vibe.
It's really
But
funny too. One of the funny
it explores like some deep stuff, like the what is humanity, especially what is humanity, what is a warrior. It asks a lot of deep questions in a really probing, really, really fascinating story set. Go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's all no. It was Starship Troopers. We've moved on for that, so don't worry about it.
I mean, we can circle back.
No, it's okay. It's all right. We can talk about it later when we talk.
Y'all want to work on the screenplay to bring it back?
I would love to write a Starship.
Forever War
Right.
one.
Forever War would also. I was just about to say that. That would also be a good one. It's simple.
That one will take a lot of work, though.
I think
because
Forever War would be
there-
better as a miniseries.
that I think you could miniseries it. Because of the time lapses, it would have to be a miniseries. But that book would take a lot to unpack. You might need to bring Peter Jackson on board. Turn a 300-page book into 8 hours of film.
Mhm.
Hey, he can do it. Books that should have been made into movies, though. Red Storm Rising. I was
about to say that. Yeah, it's good.
I think
Hey, that hasn't been made
I
into
read that one.
Beyond.
Red Storm Rising is.
Or miniseries. You could do a miniseries with
It should be a miniseries because the separate storylines, like the branch
True.
storyline.
They're in Iceland.
No.
They're in the Atlantic Convoy.
Yeah.
Europe.
Yeah, and you could
We've
basically
done a
throw
pretty
episode
terrible
each
job.
storyline.
We've done a pretty terrible job at providing no context or recap for any of these things that we propose. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and start with Red Storm
Red
Rising.
Storm Rising, at the height of the Cold War in the 1980s, the Cold War goes hot. The Soviet Union does not use nuclear weapons, but invades Europe in a conventional war. And there's several different storylines taking place. There's a tanker fighting the Russian hordes. There is a pilot flying the fictional stealth fighter, which at the time I actually thought was a stealth fighter. In reality, it was a bomber.
Well,
And
he still predicts the F-1117 6 years before it was revealed. Pretty incredible.
pretty incredible, yes.
Eh.
And then is it Navy, Coast Guard, or Air Force? I think he's Air Force, the guy in Iceland.
Air Force weatherman.
He's
Air
Air Force weatherman who goes on a one-man
Yep.
war behind enemy lines with,
Hey, he's got a squad of Marines with him.
yeah,
They do all the work.
in Iceland because the Soviets invade Iceland, which is somewhat plausible. I
It
mean,
was legit. It was legit because what they did first, right? They had to take out the carrier group.
yep, which they
Then they
did.
could invade. Totally plausible, actually. And then my favorite story, the Navy destroyer captain.
Who's protecting the convoys for Reforger, essentially.
Yeah.
Reinforcement
And then-
forces in Europe.
And then what's his name? Toland, the Navy intel guy. He's just there to give you like a strategic picture of like
Yeah,
what the heck.
incredibly well done. It reads well.
Really
It's
great.
self-contained within one book. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And the
instead,
ending is not that crazy. He doesn't just
terrible films.
he does not pull the ending out of his rear end either. The ending is fairly convincing and plausible and sews everything up in a nice, neat package. Great.
Absolutely. And
It's his best book.
focused on
It's his
that.
best
It
book.
doesn't cover things going on in the rest of the world, even though there's other stuff going on.
It's great.
I mean, you look at Tom Clancy films made from books, and most of them are awful, with the exception of the two Harrison Ford ones, which were okay. And Hunt for Red October, which is okay. The other ones, Sum of All Fears, hot garbage.
That's a shame too, because Stumble Fears is a great book
Oh, it's
about a lost nuclear bomb that everyone's trying to grab.
Yep, it's a great.
It's like a season of 24 contained inside of a book. It's brilliant.
They did the mini series on Without Remorse, or was it a mini series or a movie? Either way, it was terrible.
Again, missed opportunity. Without Remorse is fantastic.
It's a fantastic book, but
That dude was a really good writer. Like in his prime, he was goated with the sauce, as my students would say.
Rainbow Six is the end of it, though.
That's where he starts going downhill. Yep.
Well, that's what he
Yeah,
sells out, and then he starts using
Mhm.
ghostwriters.
Yep.
Because he
But hey, man,
4 books after that. The Cardinal of the Kremlin's boring, and then you get into his other ones like Chaos Theory, and it's like with this person, it's like, yeah, you just got some factoid wrong. That definitely wasn't you, Tom Clancy. You never got
Yep.
factoids wrong.
Yep. Bear of the Dragons, his last attempted kind of strategic one. That one's ghost written, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'd say Rainbow Six is strategic.
Rainbow Six is great. Rainbow Six is really good. Even though it's his like swan song, it's really good.
Oh, it's strategic though. I mean, ending the world with a super virus is a little strategic.
Dude, honestly, and it's like the eco-terrorists as the villains,
Also, like,
extremely based.
pretty overplayed though.
It's a kind of
Yeah, nobody would ever actually purposely release a super virus to depopulate the planet.
That sounds a lot more like Michael Crichton's
And he's
or
Andromeda
possibly
Strain.
Stephen King's. Yeah, Michael Crichton.
Yeah,
Right up until the ending, and then it's like he was looking at his clock and said, "Oh, gotta go."
yeah, it's true. Time lock.
Andromeda Strain, perfect example. Oh God, the flesh-eating bacteria has escaped. Oh wait, it all simultaneously reproduced and mutated, so now it eats rubber. Oh no, our cars are gonna be trashed, but you know what? We're gonna live. So, problem solved.
That's a good one. The movie wasn't so great.
He always he set the blueprint for like Peter Singer and Cole. Would you say that he spared no expense on researching this?
And the guys in the Spaz 12 is forever popular is thanks to the stupid scene with the Velociraptors. Clever girl. There's a reason to go military. Stupid. So since I stole your thunder, Pete, what's your pick for book or series? It could be a comic book series. Could be made into. Yeah, you want to expand it that way.
And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. I started to. The problem with Icelandic sagas is if you read one, you read them all. I mean, they just made it bad in a different way. It got a little bit better when he died and Sanderson starts writing the last three books. But the first one and then the other seven or whatever, you just progressively losing the plot. Because I listened to the audiobooks all back to back to back because I watched the Amazon. Yeah, but I mean, so early 90s writing tends to move a little bit on the slower side, so it's kind of easy to follow as audiobooks. Yeah, we'd have to tackle this on my hypothetical other podcast show since we're a little bit out of bounds here. Well, mine, I said Old Man's War. I hope not. Yeah, no, you're right. If they did, it would be against the Russians. They had a secret fleet they mobilized for the Ukraine conflict. I haven't watched it. I was gonna bring it up at some point. We've talked about it on the show before. Is Ice Station Zebra a movie? Yeah, they made Ice Station Zebra a movie. Yeah, the thing with most of your classic war novels, I feel like they were pretty on top of getting those produced as videos.
Yeah, they monetize them quick, don't they?
I wonder what the New York decent, fiction thing about ancient Greece, and that's never been.
What? I thought Gates of Fire was kind of the blueprint for the 300 comic.
I'd concur.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same event, but it's nothing the same depiction.
Well, so I mean, but Gates of Fire is trying to repaint like the culture, and 300 was not as interested, but like it's still told from the tell your story perspective and all that jazz. But admittedly, it's not from a captured prisoner of the Persian king, right?
What I would actually, speaking of ancient Greek, then
I'm not sure there's much more appetites or room for many more depictions of Thermopylae.
No, but what they should do is Xenophon's Anabasis, the journey to the sea.
So that's not a bad pick.
That would be
I will say though that
version.
technically there has already been one of those.
If you're talking about the warriors from the 1970s, yes, you're technically right.
Obviously talking about the warriors.
Come out and play. But from our viewers who have not seen that, I think it's set in the 1970s gangland. Based on Xenophon's journey to the sea, in which a group of Greek mercenaries fighting for a Persian king in a civil war win the battle but lose their employer because he's killed, and then have to fight their way back through 1,000 miles of desert and hostile territory to get back home.
Like,
Worst
don't even
gig.
get-
They don't even get
get
paid.
hired by the other side, right?
No, and they're looting the enemy camp, and they realize, hey, the king's dead. We got to run. So they don't even collect
And
the
then-
booty. They sent the
And
booty.
then the adaptation, the Warriors are a bunch of high school white kids that are trying to fight their way back from Manhattan.
No. The
Yeah.
Warriors are actually ethnically diverse, dude. That's like the thing that makes
Were
them
they?
stand out. Yeah, they're ethnically
I just
diverse.
remember mullets.
No, there's a
Anyway, they're
the black
trying,
guys,
Coney-
the Hispanics.
and trying to get back to Coney Island.
I'm almost positive they're diverse. I'm almost positive because that's what like sets them apart from all the other.
I'm willing to take your word for it.
That's all right.
I don't remember.
We'll have to rewatch
but
it. We'll just have to rewatch it. It's okay. But I love how the king is named. The king's named Xerxes, who hires them, or Cyrus. The king's named Cyrus, or the gang leader or whatever, who brings them up there. It's great. That was a clever adaptation.
So we moving on to number 2 then, or are we gonna do something?
Yes. No, I say we move to. We can do 2 really quick. My number 2 is Top Gun.
Do the first one or the second one?
Very hard, but I like the first one because it's the best. The second one was phenomenal and exceeded my expectations in every way.
Yeah, I like the first one, but I actually like the second one more. But it's with the context of the first one. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's everything from the first one except made better in a lot.
It's a beautiful sequel. How about you, Matt? Because I don't want to run too much longer.
I would
Roll up.
number 2 is Letters from Iwo Jima. You can't go wrong with a Ken Watanabe film, and it's
Dude, good choice.
it's interesting that we see things from the Japanese perspective because every war film about the Pacific is the Japanese are just these awful, radical, crazy human beings, which a lot of them, in some cases they were. A lot of other cases, they're just conscripts and draftees from Korea and poor parts of Japan that were thrown on an island to starve.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting look from the other side, and the acting, the screenwriting, like it's the 2 films, the bookends, Flags of Our Fathers, and Letters from Iwo Jima. Letters from Iwo Jima is so much better than Flags of Our Fathers.
Yeah, it blows it away. Flags of Our Fathers gets mixed up with the whole, oh, look how sad it sucked. They all had PTSD and were alcoholics and couldn't readjust. That's not what, in my opinion, that's not what a good war movie is about. Like it's not about what happens when you go home.
Yeah, we all know PTSD exists. Y'all should just get over it.
No, legit.
You're
'cause
gonna
you're
do
doing that in a
Other. Like you've got to have the best years of our lives, which is essentially a movie about PTSD right after World War II, and have it only be about that, or you've got a war movie. You can't have this flash forward, flashback thing the whole time.
and you lose all pathos, you lose all impact of the decisions. I don't know, that's where Flags of Fathers, and then also the book too. The book was just a drag. You know what I mean? It was all like this. Oh, what happened to them after the war? Like, we don't care, dude. This isn't like a retrospective, bring the gang back together thing. Tell us what actually happened. Show us the meat. What about you, Joe? Number 2.
Number 2.
Well, I'm probably going to start a fight with this because of all of the Army installation renamings, I don't really have that strong of an opinion, but one that they got spot on was reflagging Fort Benning to Fort Moore.
Oh, we're doing a little
We
weird
were
soldiers.
Once and young.
Yeah.
I like that. That's actually my number one.
We were soldiers. It was a
Yeah,
was decent.
because
great job. Mel
it
Gibson.
captures
kills
it
in that
all.
role,
It's
dude.
not just Mel Gibson and his portrayal of the guy. Also, and if we were continuing the list, you can all fight me if you want to. But my next 2 are the other Mel Gibson war movies,
Braveheart.
and then Russell Crowe and Gladiator was also going to round out the rest of my
Oh,
list.
because I already got good. I'm glad you didn't say the other Russell Crowe movie because that's my number 1. Don't.
Why did Robin Network have to be
No.
war?
Master and Commander. Master Commander is the undisputed greatest.
I
war
can't
movie.
believe I forgot. That's not a bad, and that one's pretty good on with its book too.
Oh, it's
So yeah,
great.
so we were soldiers depicts a real unit and a real person and his real spouse, who Fort Benning is now named after, Fort Hal and Julia Moore. And what is so powerful about it is it doesn't just capture him trying to be a good leader, a strong leader overseas, but it also captures his family life at home and how his spouse essentially takes the lead in leading the families of that unit while they're deployed as well. And it captures because being in the military can be an all identity consuming thing. You live on the base, you work on the base, you deploy with all of the people that you live and work with, and your families are left together us without you then to get along somehow. And also my favorite quips come straight out of that one too, because you've got, and this is Sergeant Major, I forget his name.
Oh, Sam Elliott, right?
Yeah, it's Sam Elliott. Yeah.
Sorry.
And he's like, and
What's
the
so
tribe,
about it?
the native tribes would call the elders grandfather. They would all be your grandfather, and he is your elder. You learn from his wisdom. And as soon as Mel Gibson looks at the, if any of you sons of, you call me grandpa, I'll kill you. Classic Sam Elliott.
He's actually serious stolen valor. No question that he was a hero in Vietnam, but the whole thing about having combat jumps, he didn't have any. The whole thing about
Well,
him
it's
having
true.
a CIB, he was an engineer. He shouldn't have had any CIB.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, man. Especially not that.
Yeah, the Army had no comment when someone pretty much exposed him, and they said, "Well, a lot of records get lost." It's like,
Oop.
yeah, sure they do.
And then
That's why they didn't name the base after him. They named it after our favorite West Pointer, Hal Moore.
And his wife, technically.
I had one more spicy one if the conversation didn't go as well as I feel like it ended up going.
What was your
Uh,
spicy one?
Full Metal Jacket.
Not bad for the first half.
I already have one Stanley Kubrick film, so I can't have two.
Again, he's good. The first
The
half
Marine Corps gave the dude an award.
is pretty based. Not gonna lie, dude.
The drill sergeant got an award for being so good at being the drill sergeant.
Also, that's also you have to give it Arlie Araby, dude. He personified the drill sergeant. Every single drill sergeant now is either a
Based on
parody
that,
of
including Vince
or based on Arlie Araby. He's,
portrayal.
yeah, he's the model. He's the platonic ideal of the drill sergeant.
Well, did you know that in reality, who is it? Baldwin, the guy who's the helicopter door gunner, that was originally supposed to be Arlie Ermey's role on Stanley.
Adam Baldwin, no way.
Yeah, Matt Baldwin was going to be the drill sergeant, and he could not do it. So they made him the helicopter door gunner. He was like, "How do you know a well-disciplined beast?" That whole thing. That was supposed to be Arlie Ermey, and they're like, "No, you're going to be the drill sergeant."
Then he went on to be Jane in Firefly, my favorite role. Also in, I think, Chuck. He was also in Chuck. But yes, an accomplished television actor.
Yes. Very big.
My other Marine Corps drill sergeant in the media fun fact, I recently learned that Shaggy's, the singer or the MC Shaggy, his voice
It's based upon his drill instructors.
he took it from mocking his drill instructor.
So he's literally Private Joker.
Yeah.
Is that you, John Wayne? Is this me?
He was going 1, 2, 3, 4. And
He did the silly
just
rock.
call me Angel in the morning. Like he got it from mocking,
No way.
which is wild. Yeah.
That's
And one of them.
who said that? Who said that?
Oh man.
That is great.
All right.
I don't
Well, I
think
was
it's
talking-
a good movie.
Let's get a couple more out of both of y'all.
Gettysburg, good, bad, the best.
Well, I mean,
War
if you're
movie.
comparing it to gods in general, it is the best. If you're comparing it to Glory, I think you
It's
gotta
way
you gotta
better. Okay, how about this? Okay,
Yeah.
was it Cold Mountain? The one with Jude Law in it?
I never saw that.
It's okay. It's not really. It's a home front movie. Is
Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, again, I don't like the ending.
the ending?
It's not a war movie.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's a good depiction of essentially the Civil War that was going on within the Civil War in the South. Because
yeah, but that's
very, very
fine.
poor communities within North Carolina and some other states that just wanted no part of that war effort. So yeah, I mean that's an interesting choice there. And then you had awful
Gangster-
militias that were nominally working for the government that were just murdering everyone.
Gangs of New York, good Civil War movie.
A redo, or if The Patriot wasn't already there, I think there'd be a really good movie to be made based off of Mosby's Rangers, especially because Mosby himself was just a phenomenal character.
That was my number 4. Was Last of the Mohicans, but again, that's French and Indian War. There's a shockingly small number.
No,
of
no.
war movies.
Mosby guy, University of Virginia graduate.
Ooh, nice call out
Basically,
there. UVA.
basically, well, that's the only reason why I know his story, because like they tell it a lot during my ROTC program down at University of Virginia. But he was basically just like a sort of pseudo we use my washout kind of guy, right? He got in trouble at UVA because you weren't supposed to duel, and they dueled right there on the green, and he won. Um, but he goes on, and he basically operated as like as a special forces semi-autonomous unit during the Civil War for the South. He had relations with a commanding a Union commander's daughter, I think, and they caught him in the house, and they start trying to shoot at him. He like fire pulls down a tree in the back and escapes with like three bullet holes in him or something, and just goes on to keep on fighting. And he just like his story and the unit he was leading would make a really interesting story.
I mean, I think the really cool thing was he was rehabilitated pretty well after the war as well.
Yeah,
He was buddies with Ulysses Grant.
yeah. No, that's like he was a charismatic guy, but he was also like more about the states' rights than the other stuff.
I lived there, and there's a little signpost. He basically tells them, the war's over. Don't be guerrillas. Go back and be good husbands and fathers and live your lives.
Yeah,
Which is great for the Union, because this guy would have been
a
the
big
elite guerrilla trainer. But he's like, hey, we lost. We signed a deal. Let's go on. And like, you might not like what the South was fighting for, but you know,
It's impressive.
he respects the peace deals. He respects
He did actually
his followers.
a couple times though.
Okay, but who does that?
I mean,
Sometimes
let's be real. Let's get real. No, I mean, hey, what about
it's not a war crime until the Geneva Convention comes around.
great
And
train
besides-
robbery, Union operatives shoot POWs?
Besides, nobody's
that
paying
deal with the
attention to
general.
Mosby peacefully executing some POWs when Andersonville is happening in South Georgia.
My favorite one is at one point he's going to execute Union POWs, and one of the Union POWs gives a secret Freemason sign to one of the Confederates, and the Confederate pretends to execute him and lets him go off. He goes ballistic and nearly executes his subordinate for, being a Freemason, thinking that's more important than the war effort.
Yeah. Although we can't say that because then the Illuminati will start coming for us.
But,
I think they're my mysterious 14th listener.
Mm-hmm.
well, if I was going to pick a film, I don't know. You guys will probably rag on me for it, but Black Hawk Down, I really think is the best modern war film, hands down.
No, Black Hawk Down I would say it's great. It's really, really well done.
I feel like
It's not overly glorified.
Honestly,
It does.
I think they downplay how much of a goat rope Restore Hope was for us.
But I think that misses the point because the movie is entirely focused at the tactical level and it doesn't engage at the strategic what the heck was happening in the first place. It's called Black Hawk Down, and that's also what the book focuses on. It's just the ridiculous heroics of this small group of men.
Absolutely, but
that is fair.
more how a commander can lose control of something so quickly. Like you look at that, and they had the best of intentions. They had a good plan, and lucky RPG hit on a tail rotor of a Black Hawk, and everything goes screwy at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, just awful time for those people.
Oh man, that scene, dude. Speaking of commander losing control, that scene from We Were Soldiers, when Westmoreland has like the big map, like the strategic map, and they call in Broken Arrow, and it's like, my God,
Broken Arrow.
There's no hiding it now. Like all the little paper planes get pushed to the center of the map, right where First Cap is.
Some great footage of the A1 Sky Raider in that.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
But yeah, another one I thought of that I didn't pull was Apocalypse Now. It's very divisive, but I enjoy that for a Vietnam War film more than the other ones.
I have fallen asleep during 2 war movies that I read.
That's one of them.
The other one is Gods in General.
I fell asleep during Gods in General, so we have that in common.
How can you not? It's like 4 hours, not including the intermission.
It should have been broken up.
But the whole model
movie 1 should have been Gods, and then movie 2 should have been General.
They could have just made it about Jackson's Valley campaign. That would have actually been interesting. Instead, they just went, spread it all the way out. You could do something lionizing Jackson. There's literally nothing wrong with that. Just do it better.
But I mean, Apocalypse Now, the whole inner monologue in there that the guy's struggling with the whole time, and how you can't win a war against an insurgency, I guess, is the lesson that I take away from that one without We talked about this the other day. Like, kill 'em all.
Nah, bro. No, bro, it's fine, man. Come on. That movie was made like in the
That was
70s. Clearly, that wasn't the lesson Kubrick intended. He meant, or was it Kubrick? Was Apocalypse Now Kubrick?
No, was it Francis?
Oh, was it Coppola?
It was Coppola. Yeah, Francis.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, no, that clearly wasn't the lesson, dude. We could win the insurgency. We just need more men and more money. That's it. That's all we need.
So yeah, I'll go with Black Hawk Down though. All right, what about you, Pete?
Are we back to like number one?
You're number one. No more.
Man, like it's a Navy movie, but Master and Commander, far side of the world.
Great film.
Absolutely fantastic, and it breaks my heart they didn't make sequels.
They still
Because
good. He's
the-
not that old. You're good.
Yeah, I know, but the Audrey Maturin books by Bernard Cornwell, is it? Or
Yeah. Although
yeah, they are.
it's an American frigate. It's not French. We just
I know, like Hollywood's got to change garbage, man. It would actually, it makes it a lot more interesting if it was like a Constitution class.
Although they
Instead of
kind of do it in
forward.
the movie because they have the one guy who was a dockhand in Philadelphia says, "I saw them build it. They built it for the French." It's like,
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, sure they did. They built it for the
Yeah.
Americans. We just don't want to say that.
Yep. But yeah, that's a really great movie. It's like, and a good examination of leadership under fire. It's great. It's phenomenal. Just good.
Yeah, there's a
favorite
lot of
movie.
self-examination of oneself as a leader within that movie on the part of Russell Crowe. And then he's got the doctor who's, isn't he later in the X-Men movies? He's like the Beast or something.
Is he Nightcrawler or Cyclops? He's one of them. I don't remember exactly. But he's a great foil because he provides this more like humanist element.
Paul Bettany, he's Vision. He plays
So you know you're-
the Marvel, or the dude with the brains and everything. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, the contrast of the more humanist doctor telling like you need to be more merciful, more lenient, etc. And then Russell Crowe gives that great speech as the captain's like, "This little ship is a floating world, and the captain
Yeah, they heard that from
is
Captain
law."
Tiberius Kirk.
Are you sure Cornwall didn't steal it in the book? 'Cause I'm pretty sure it's lifted directly from the book.
So that's a very good film. And it's very underrated. Like the sailing scenes and the naval combat in that are still top notch.
Mhm.
The
There's,
graphics
there's
hold
a-
up too.
Nicholas Roger, as a slight aside, Nicholas Roger, a British historian, wrote a phenomenal book about that and the period of the Royal Navy called The Wooden World. And he kind of borrows that turn of phrase from it. It's a fantastic just examination of like life in the Royal Navy in the 1700s and the early 1800s. It's not nearly as bad as most people, I think, are led to believe. It was certainly better than being in the Merchant Marine.
So the brass tactics formula for finding a good military-based movie is look for the headliner to be Russell Crowe
Or Mel Gibson.
Okay.
or Mel Gibson, and potentially directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, two of our Stanley Kubrick.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and like 2 or 3 are Mel Gibson, and then the one, and then an honorable mention is Russell Crowe. So
Yeah.
that's pretty forward. This was a fun one. We should do this more often. The problem is, at some point, we would actually have to read a new book together to actually discuss it. And who has the time?
We did.
Words are for nerds, am I right?
I mean, we didn't really include TV series, but we could expand it maybe next time.
All right. This was a good talk. I'm going to go to bed.
I agree.
Can't wait to talk books on the next episode.
This was Brass Tickets.
You like that one?
That was very
Came up
funny.
with that one right
That was
before I
very
opened
funny.
the studio.
Yeah, there you go. You know, may the force projection be with you as you buy your brass tickets.
Is